Hello, Rachel.
Hi, Ryan.
How are you doing?
It's been a little bit of a rough time, but, things have been worse.
Why has it been a rough time for you, Rachel? What has been happening since we recorded last?
Just life happening.
Vague as always. Someone must have told you more spoilers about the Expanse books and you just can't get into it right now on the podcast.
Yep.
I am doing good. I'm feeling happy. I'm feeling relieved in a lot of ways, but also I'm excited and keen for the future of everything because we are here yet again on our podcast to talk about something in particular. We are going through the 5th season of The Expanse. We've watched each episode of it now, and we're here to reflect, to take a moment and look back on the season, talk about the things that worked, that didn't, the things that stood out, the things that linger, and what the remainder of The Expanse could have within it, as well as a variety of other things. And what a season of television it was, Rachel.
Yeah, it was. I have a question for you. And we start these discussions with our general thoughts on the season. Do we have to explain what Yum Yum is?
We do have a special mode of Yum Yum for our coverage of The Expanse because we are named Yum Yum because of an amazing line of dialogue from Star Trek Discovery that does have not just humor and heart, but horniness to it. And The Expanse, it promised horniness. It delivers on it every season in one way or another. And the 5th one, oh boy, does it really deliver on the horny factor in a way that is, my jaw is still on the floor when we got it.
But you have what the Yum Yum moment is way later.
Well, you brought it up right now, so it's being brought up right now.
Usually it's part of our intro is to explain what Yum Yum is.
Well, we have done that, and I'm just going to say the Yum Yum moment is the nudity we got in the 5th season.
Yeah,
we got to see butts.
Very straightforward.
We've got to see breasts. Nipples were included this time.
Are you talking Peach's side of her butt when she's peeing?
Well, that too. What a great scene that was. Rachel's really remembered it fondly too. Now, Rachel's a convert to that scene. That's the noise of her saying, yes. But, Yum Yum, was there anything for you? And did you have a specific Amos pick for the season?
I didn't.
Wow, you've really had a rough time since we've recorded last because you always have an Amos pick up your sleeve.
But, there's no particularly, super sexy moments. Because even, his badass fight at the start of the season, it's sad.
Rachel, my eyebrows have gone all the way up my forehead to the back of my head because do you not remember Tribes? Do you not remember when he was forced to strip down to his underwear?
Yeah, but even, we get to see a lot of him.
We saw a lot of him.
We could have seen more of him.
He got lubed up with blood even. He got oiled up. He got slippery.
Strip then.
What?
You say you don't have any weapons? Stand where you are and strip down.
So when you think back on season 5, you're going to go, oh yeah, that's the one.
That's the one with Marco in it. That's what I think of. The first thing I think of is it's the Marco season where we really get to know this character, this antagonist, and what he is capable of and what he is willing to do. That is the thing, because the big tentpole moments, game-changing moments like the devastation of Earth is because of Marco, but then we go those steps further and get to spend time with the character and know him on a personal level, not just a season antagonist bad guy level.
Yeah, this
so
season really is the antagonist is in charge of like everything.
it's the baddies are winning season.
He's very much dictating everything.
When you think back on season 5, what is it?
Marco as well, but not just Marco is here. It's Marco is owning the galaxy.
What do we think about this 5th season? What is our overall impressions and feelings towards it?
My overall opinion right now is that it was pretty solid with some very low lows and didn't get up to the high highs that I wanted. It feels frustrating because more than any of the other seasons, it feels incomplete. In terms of the plot, like the characters have reached a resting point. And it feels more disjointed in a way because I guess it's the first time that we've had an antagonist that's so much of a presence carry over to the next season.
Because you had people like Mao and Aaron Wright who were playing chess politically or scientifically or business-wise. They were elusive, but they weren't... They were dangerous, but not in this way. And they didn't have that close personal connection because...
They weren't
Christian was
the face of it.
Yeah. Like,
and present like Marco is. Where, like... Also, because Marco feels like he is going to be short-lived, whereas Mao and Aaron Wright, you could see them sticking around for seasons, which they did, right?
They were the establishment. They were the higher-ups. They were the ones that made it so people like Marco would eventually rise up.
Is burning so bright right now. There's no way that I can imagine it being sustainable.
You are sounding like the boardroom in that meeting with the UN in which they were like, well, he's a rogue element. He's going to fuck himself up in the end and they will turn against him. And that's kind of what you're getting at with it a bit, where it's he's so powerful, but he's so chaotic at the same time.
Yeah, like that much chaos cannot just all of a sudden become stability. And you need stability to maintain what he has, let alone get more, which is clearly what he wants.
But to counter you just a tad, and I'll tell my opinion on the season in a moment too, but just to counter that,
come on, contrarian, come at me.
There is a huge part of, especially with the ending of the season, that Marco is playing up that side of himself so that he can actually achieve his big game plan that will form a new status quo that he is going to be on top of. So that's something that's fascinating, but we know also that the relationships he has is what really chews away at him. The fact that Naomi and Philip won't follow the things that he needs them to follow makes him act out in those much more primal, chaotic, childlike ways than his actual game plan. Like when he's set in motion on like, here's how I'm going to do this, this, and this, he can do those things, but he puts on this veneer of like, I'm a charismatic, crazy terrorist man, but he's a calculating one. He's a smart player. He uses this to distract you so that way he can actually achieve these means.
I'm not saying it's impossible. I just don't think it's probable.
But
and it feels like that's very much the way that it's heading. Either it's going to be like Marco wins, which
is unlikely,
or Marco loses. It doesn't feel like they're gonna have him win in some way and lose in another. So it just feels like I'm still just waiting for Marco to fuck it up and to see him just fall in a blaze of glory.
In defense of the series as a whole, we haven't had too many antagonists like that. We've had the ones that fit more what you were just saying, in which there's a win there, but there's a loss there. Like, Aaron Wright, in the end, he won out on a lot of things he wanted to do, but he lost, and he went down, and he took it on the face. And same with like Mao, and we could go on and on. Even Murtry, to an extent, is like, you're going to face justice, and he's like, sure. Like, I don't give a shit because I don't believe in it. Like, I believe in my version. So in the end, I win.
Yeah.
And then you get people like Clarissa Mao, in which it's like, well,
we've had a lot of variety when it comes to villains. And it's even more interesting thinking back on Clarissa now that she's here as Peaches.
With, just to keep talking about your feelings on the season, that sense of incompletion is something that is a sticking point for you. Why is that when, in a lot of ways, shows, especially ones of this era, want to have the kick the ball down the road like more and more and get you keen on seeing?
Blue has rolled over from season to season to season. I guess it's because I feel like for a season to be a season, an arc should be completed. Or several mini arcs should be completed. And it feels like this season was the Marco arc. And it's not done.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like we've gotten maybe like 2 of the 3 mini arcs, like him attacking Earth and the consequences of that. And then very briefly at the end, him taking the ring.
And the middle section of him winning over on his son's soul. Like, that's the thing where you can have the big intergalactic, interdimensional warring between all these factions and handing over super weapons and so on.
Imbalanced, though, because it's just like
you need
Marco's battle against Earth, Marco's battle against Naomi, Marco's battle against the ring, and
the Rossi, too. He's trying to get that, too.
Each of those, we kind of get less time with. Like, we get a lot of time with him setting up, planning, and following through the attack on Earth. We get, again, a pretty solid amount of time with him fighting with Naomi and Philip.
I would say that's the heart of the season.
Yeah.
Like,
and then we barely get anything, like we get the visuals of the battle that he has, but we're not there with him.
Well, here's the thing, though. Again, like, to keep having the back and forth with you, he says from pretty much the get-go that what he wants to achieve...
Oh, yeah, we know his goals.
And when he puts out the plan to attack the ring, it's the obvious way to achieve the goal he said he wanted to, because he's not about trying to destroy Earth entirely or Mars or whatever. He's about crippling them all, and the way to cripple them all into submission is to take the new power, which is the ring. And he does that, but the thing is, he said that he was going to do these things throughout the whole entire season. We saw him effectively do pretty much all of them, but we were focusing in on him as a person. But this is the great thing, though. This is what I loved about the season, because I loved this season. I really, really enjoyed it. This was definitely a step up from where we've been with season 4, but I loved how a lot of the catharsis and meat of the matter was deeply rooted in the character work, in the character psyches, going into their minds and those arcs. And I could spend so much time talking to you about Marco and his way of doing things and how his big plots.
We know our cast really well, including Marco.
Yeah, and he's a new character, basically.
Maybe Philip a little bit.
Oh, yeah. Oh, there's plenty of work with Philip,
There's plenty of work, but I hesitate to say that we know Philip, because Philip doesn't know himself, and a large part of it is that he is questioning who he is and what he wants. Like, those questions are what is happening with the character work for Philip, whereas Marco knows who he is and he's committed to the path.
Exactly.
And that is where the majority of our characters are at. They know their place within things and they are very much committed to the job or the task that they have.
To just say again, with the character stuff within this season, it was such a breath of fresh air, because this is what I like about The Expanse. I like to really look at the series through the ensemble, whether it's from the heroes, the bad guys, or main characters, one-offs, side characters, recurring, because they can be the vehicle that gives us the greater ability to analyze the messaging, the themes, the world, the subject that the series is trying to tackle. There's more for me to talk about by just getting into Alex as a person and what he was trying to achieve with his life than what he actually did in terms of helping the big sci-fi plot at large, which is like he drove a ship really fast. Like, that's what he did, but that's not what he was about. And that's how I feel with a lot of the season.
Difference
of like,
between what he is and what he does.
Which answer are you looking for?
I don't understand.
I say we're fine and you're off the hook. You don't have to feel guilty about abandoning us because we're fine.
No, that's not
Or
it.
I say we're all broken up about it and you get to feel loved and missed. So which one are you looking for?
What I'm frustrated with this season is that I feel like a bunch of our characters were wasted. Or like not necessarily their potential being wasted, but what they had felt like a waste of my time.
That is something I will side with you on, and I think it really is the foundation of that sense of this doesn't feel as cohesive or complete as other seasons. Even with season 4, which we use as a punching bag a lot now, but think of all of, like, most of the characters, they had their story and they overcame their challenge in it, and or it defeated them. You got a clear picture of it all. Like, oh, Alex and Naomi and Lucia are stuck on the Rocinante and they have to do these things. Oh, look, they managed to do these things, but there were troubles along the way. And you could do that with each story throughout a lot of these seasons. But in this one, half the cast are just flying around till eventually the final episode happens, in which now we promise there will be stories next time. Like Bobby, Alex, Monica, Bull, Holden, they for half the season are just flying around waiting for something to happen. They are on a chase that they won't succeed in because Marco wins. And they didn't fill their stuff up enough with great character work like they did with the other people, like with Amos and Clarissa and all of the Naomi and Marco and Philip stuff, where half the season, like, the ensemble gets not just something that moves the plot forward.
Oh, did we mention
something...
Avasarala?
Yeah, and Avasarala, like, she gets a lot to do in this season, a lot of character stuff, but also she is a mover and shaker. She is shaping the galaxy at large, and she is on an upward trajectory, but, like, you go to Holden and you're like, okay, you did stuff at the beginning slightly and you pushed buttons and you got made fun of for doing that. And then you're just on the Rocinante given a look until the end of the season, which is like, now this is what will defeat Marco. It's very dissatisfying in that way. And I think that, to give you some credit of what you're saying, is much more pronounced than in other seasons, when other seasons it's like, well, that was just what Bobby did. You know, like in other seasons we'll be like,
it felt
one
more
or two
isolated.
people got that. Yeah.
I got twinges of that feeling even with the last stage of the Naomi stuff where she's on the ship and it's just like she's very methodically trying to stop them from boarding the ship that she's on so that they don't get destroyed. And so it has purpose, but it is that thing of it goes very slowly and it's very paced out. And that can get a bit frustrating at times because you're like, just get there.
This isn't
Because
a
it's
book.
just like
this isn't a book version in which
Yeah.
reading this will be the experience in which you're in the
Yeah.
character's headspace. You know what they're about. Like a whole chapter can be dedicated
and
to this.
some
Like
of
a whole
those
episode
scenes
could have
were
been.
really stunning, but it felt like this is a complaint that we've had pretty much in every season of The Expanse to one extent or another, which is the hold up a minute or hurry up and wait. Like you can't get to this point yet because this other plot point needs to get to this point before you can get there. So you can't move ahead too far. Like Naomi needs to just get a little bit so that they can get this, so that they can get that, so that they can do this.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels that movement doesn't feel as fluid.
There are some stories in which reality-wise they can't sustain being in a whole season, or they can't sustain being in more than 2 episodes. But this season forces some of them to be there. I kept saying to you throughout, tell me why such and such story needed to be 4 episodes instead of 2. Tell me why this one was only 1 episode instead of 5. Like there were some of those criticisms that we did have, but
Hey, I want to make it clear. I feel like I'm hating on this season, and that's not my overall feelings. I had a lot of fun with this season. I have quite a few favorite moments, like Churn as a whole episode is like perfect for me. Like the mix of Amos in with the other plot as well. We get backstory, we get small moments, we get big moments. Like him getting the mug.
Timmy.
Timmy.
Oh, and he loses that mug.
He loses that mug.
I was hoping it would come back in like the final shot. Like that's Marco's big plan. He's like, I got the mug. You better watch out now.
And like to mention another Amos moment, and no, it's not him getting semi-naked in the snow, Ryan.
Okay, but you just brought it up, so you kind of in a roundabout way making sure that is mentioned. Go on.
His statement about nobody really starts over, because you never leave everything behind or anything
You take
behind.
it with you, yeah.
Like you always have your baggage and you always bring that with you. You never get a completely fresh start. And I think that that's a really important moment of recognition for Amos, but also a reflection of many of our characters across the whole show, that like on an individual basis, obviously you don't leave anything behind, but humanity going to these next stages of Mars and the belt and now the rings, we bring our problems with us. We bring our baggage. We bring our experiences. We bring our joys.
The season has a lot of high points, a lot of great things to select, and to wade into that pool a bit, I wanted to just mention the funny things, the things that made me chuckle or smile that were sprinkled.
Monica getting denied entry?
I had as my note, Monica getting no respect. Throughout the whole season, she is getting fucking no respect when she's just risked her life. They've saved her. She nearly died. She has this important information. She's in the bed and they close the door on her and she's like, hey, wake the fuck up, people. I love this running bit in which Monica, who is the smartest fucking person in that plot, she's on top of everything. She's got contacts and she's backing all of her things up. She's on it. She's totally professional, still gets a side eye because she's a reporter, because she's a civilian, because she's just a foreign element to them. And I just love that as an ongoing thing. And yes, it all hit at the end when she just told them the proto-molecule's still out there, and Holden turns around and just goes, right, we're going to deal with this. He walks off and she tries to follow, and she gets stopped at the door by these guards, and she just says in the most flat but annoyed tone, come on. It just makes me smile so much. Another moment that I do have to highlight as something that I appreciated very much and got a good kick out of was when Holden tried to tell Fred Johnson how best to handle the crisis, and Fred just turns around and is like, who the fuck do you think I am? I've been doing this for a long time. He has that great line delivery, the way that Chad just puts the inflection in there. There's so much weight and gravity to it, but it's also very off the cuff, just funny, just Holden pestering this military man of like, here's how you should hold, like, here's how I would handle it. It's like, well, fuck you. I know what I'm doing. I'm Colonel Fred Johnson, motherfucker. And my last funny thing that I wanted to reference, something that just, I was happy to have it here. It made me laugh a lot. It's just one of those things that's so stupid, but it was the cowboy bar.
Yeah.
With the saddles as the stools. It's stuff like that. It's so silly, but it's stuff like that that will make me miss Alex. That's the beauty of this series, is the throwaway gags. They can be defining moments, and you don't even realize them until you hit a certain point. It's like when I think back, talking about season 5, when I think back about it, I'll think about the cowboy bar, and I'll think about how that was Alex trying to be happy for one last time and still getting rejected. And to hit upon some of the big moments, the favorites of mine of the season, I really did love the conversation between Marco and Naomi, in which he tried to guilt her about being a terrible parent and how much it was a struggle for him after she left, and how she made sure to let him know that's like, yeah, I regret, like, look, I feel bad about leaving Philip, but I'll do it again just to be away from you, and just how much she sticks those daggers into Marco still, and how he tries to form this narrative about how good of a parent he is and how things used to be perfect between them until she got afraid. And I did that because I thought it would bring you back. I thought that this would be the way of doing it.
If it meant that I lost you.
I loved that conversation because it was really when these two characters got to confront each other on a much more intimate level, rather than just, I hate you, what have you done, oh my god, you're a monster. It's them trying to exchange their narratives to one another.
In that section of the show, the moment that stands out a little bit more to me is when Naomi is just like, no, like, this is what your father does, and this is the kind of man that he is. And I don't want to be a part of it, and I don't want you to be like him. And because I like that they are exploring the seed that's planted in Philip's mind.
I also really want to flag up, I thought it was a really well acted scene, but it's something that I want so much from this, which is highlighting a new character or supporting character. And I really thought the scene between Naomi and Sin, in which he revealed that he helped hide Philip and that he now feels regret over that. I love that. Was just such a heartbreaking scene, so well performed, and it made you both love and loathe that character. And it was just, this is what I come to The Expanse for in a lot of ways, where we can have all of the big action set pieces and what's happening with the blue goo shenanigans and so on, and the political landscape and how it changes, but it's about having the ability to spend the moment and breathe and just have character thing. And the last one I have, and it's again a characterful moment, but I really was just drawn into the Clarissa and Amos story. I loved their journey. I loved them talking to one another. But surprisingly, my favorite moment of that entire arc was her talking to Eric. Those two talking. And just those two sharing their views on the world and how they differ, and her trying to get him to understand this journey and arc that she has gone on for now like 2-3 seasons, and then just it all being undercut by like, where did he find you? And it's like, well, I was in jail for committing like mass murder and homicide, and just killed a lot of people. Actually,
homicides.
I thought that whole entire
girly things.
just their dynamic and exchange was great, because who thought get these two to talk?
Oh, Jesus Christ. Where did Timmy find you?
Serving a life sentence for multiple homicides.
I'm talking highly, but now it's time to go back to those lows. And there were...
you see, an Earther, a Martian, and a Belter walk into a bar, and then you have to wait several episodes for a bad punchline that is meant to be pointy, and it just doesn't work for me.
So you're still on the funny bits of the season, I see. Okay, Rachel, I thought we were going to talk about our least favorite moments, but I guess you want to talk about the funny bits again, huh? You really love that bit. Look, I didn't actually have a problem with that, because it's what you expected it to be.
I just found it really grating. Like, it is a me problem, not a it problem, and I recognize it, but it stands out to me as being bad this season.
I have a version of that. My bottom thing of the season, like my least favorite scene, the one that when we wrote down least favorite moment of the season, I rolled my eyes. I went, ugh. And it's I had a rat named Mouse. Remember that? The whole Bobby as a kid had a pet.
I'd forgotten.
It was their one scene in that episode, because you have to have them be in episodes to fulfill contracts, I guess, or for pacing reasons. Like, hey, let's check in on them. Let's have this poignant, emotional scene in which Bobby speaks in a way that I don't believe, and it's very rightly, very twee, very, in quotations, cute is how I would go about it. It's probably one of my least favorite monologues the show's done.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely right down the bottom there. Like, almost by extension, any scene where we checked in on Alex and Bobby and it was fucking useless. It was it got really grating, even, like, beyond that particular monologue.
If you have to say, like, least favorite moments in comparison to least favorite plots, like, that's the thing, like, that's a whole plot. Like, that's the crazy thing. It's a plot.
Yeah.
It's a whole season-long plot that happened.
Yeah, I'm finding it hard to pinpoint moments, because it's just like with the gym stuff. It's just like, well, I don't really buy any of it, don't really care about any of it, but I can't remember any particular egregious moments from that plot.
If you have a hard time specifically pinning down moments or moments that make it something that linger, why is it still in this part of the brain? And we're just like, well, it's not good.
Is them questioning Jim's decision making around Naomi when we don't really see him being that compromised. It's just like, okay, you're saying that, but nothing that he's really doing is agreeing with those things. He seems to be doing the right thing anyway, even though she is in danger. Like, he's not doing.
He's delegating. Like, he's sharing the load.
You're right to question him, but it feels like they're more than questioning him.
there's a lot of side-eyeing. That's what it
Yeah.
is. It's like they're not necessarily saying there's something wrong. It's just they're giving each other the glance. It's like, why? Because it's a story,
I
apparently.
just got tired of Bull being so aggressive about telling us who he is.
You're like Fred Johnson.
Yeah.
Let me say it again.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, they didn't have any story to tell with this character or this character or this character. And it's disappointing because Alex, for instance, started out really strong in the season. I'm like, oh, great, we're getting a lot of stuff to talk about. I'm so excited to keep talking about him. Oh, no more. Nothing more other than he was in the episode. And same with Bobby, where it's like, you and I have our issues with Bobby, but she's paired up with Alex and they're having character, like they're having dynamics, they're having exchanges that fuel them individually and them as a duo, only for it to stop. And now when we talk about them, it's like, yeah, they were sitting in a ship and they checked in to let us know. And there was too many of those.
Let's bounce back to some good. We've got 10 episodes this season. What was your favourite?
What was my favorite or what was the best? Those are always things that I like to delineate.
Favourite.
My favorite episode in the end was Oi Dang, which was very much people talking in rooms. That was a lot of Naomi, Philip, and Marco talking to one another, giving their backstories, giving their worldviews, really challenging their stances. And we have these moments where let's talk to Sin and get his side of things. And the other elements within the episode helped feed into these kind of interpersonal, family-like conflicts. And it's not what I would consider to be like the greatest episode of the entire show, but in terms of the writers' confidence in just letting us stop for a moment, I liked it a lot. Did you have a favorite episode?
I already brought up what was my favorite episode, and that was Churn. Like, I really obviously loved the Amos stuff. I really like the insight into his background and the flashbacks that we got. But I also really enjoyed the drummer stuff because that's when she discovers Ashford's ship.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it gets that little bit of closure, but it also opens up the wound again.
I will also flag up, I think, a close runner-up to it is also heavily Amos connected, which is the penultimate episode, the one where they're at the lake house, when they're at the mansion with all of the help. The name of like the lake, we never did figure out how it was pronounced, did we? But
I have it down.
Winnipesaukee. But that was a really good episode too, in which we got to see Clarissa and how she's grown during the season and how much she's come to understand the lessons that Amos has tried to bestow upon her, but also what she has on her own accord. Like, she's not just getting all of Amos's stuff and just taking it on the chin. She rejects some of it. She has her own views on these things. And I thought that was a really good episode. It had a great big action set piece, and it had my favorite shot in the show as well, with Amos looking at Earth and the reflection of it on his face. I thought that was
stunning,
really well done.
I also really enjoyed Winnipesaukee, and I do want to mention Tribes as well, because I think that gives us a lot of scenes and moments and lines that are very thematically purposeful for the show.
You have had some issues with the season, more than I. Are there any episodes in particular that you do not like or that have
Hard Vacuum was trash. Thoughts?
No, you give more thoughts, because in that episode, you were the one that liked it. You're like, it's not that bad. I actually didn't mind. Like,
the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, oh
Well, here we are now to.
I just wanted to like something about it, and like it is not an awful episode. It really dropped the ball.
I just did not care for it. It's one in which a lot of the material in it is very much treading the same piece of ground we've been on. And the promise of what Naomi could have gotten up to was not fully realized. It's something that, if anything, it's the thing of the season that felt the most like, well, this would have worked better in the book. Because to give the season some
the
credit,
actress does a really good job with it, though.
Yeah, sure. But to give the season credit, this is one of the seasons in which I've felt the least about, oh, this would have been better in the book, or oh, I wonder how this was done in the book. I wasn't thinking about the book as often as, say, some other seasons, even ones I liked. But that episode in particular, I kept thinking, if I read this chapter in the book or this plot line of Naomi struggling, it would be much more gripping than every time we cut to it and then we cut away to make sure we are tending to other stories, we are tending to other plots.
Why did the message change? Could someone be on the ship? Could it be Naomi?
It can't be. It's impossible. She's dead.
If I have to list my favorite characters, just top 3 of them, I really love Clarissa. I thought she was really good this season. I thought she really shined. I was really happy to have her here. I thought she gets a bit of a redemption arc, and I'm always a sucker for those things. She's growing, she's learning, she's changing. I also really enjoyed Eric.
Yes.
Eric was a delight. I love that performance from the moment he first showed up, and I was even more ecstatic that he got to appear again.
Yes.
And he was a good person overall. But of course, the big standout of the season for me is Marco. I thought he was fantastic. I thought he was a really compelling villain. He's not the type of antagonist that I usually gravitate towards, but because we get to spend a whole season knowing the man and all of his flaws and strengths, it made him someone to watch. And the actor
You see why he sees himself as a hero.
Yes, and the manipulation of Philip and the quandary that you are put in when it is following Marco and Philip and Naomi. I think Marco is such a wonderful character to talk about, not just watch. When we were talking about scenes in these episodes, the ones that I found to be the most fruitful were the ones about Philip and Marco and Naomi, because yes, there's clear sides that you pick, but the show is giving all of these nuances and layers to it all, in which it's harder than just how I walked in thinking, if they're going to try and redeem this kid who's responsible for the death of millions, fuck this. Like, I remember having that attitude, but the way that they do go about it alleviated a lot of that, but also reinforced it. Like, the show recognizes the uphill battle that has inherently within it, but because we get to know how Marco is as a father as well as a leader, and how he uses those two at the same time, made that whole entire conflict just like catnip to me. I just wanted to keep watching more and more of it. And Marco was just such a standout figure for me. And this is, like we said, his season in my eyes in a lot of ways. And it's really the first time truly that an antagonist has really got to be given such a huge spotlight. What about you? Who were your top characters, your favorites of the season?
I had a top 3. I want to see if you can guess them. Who do you think my number 3 was?
Clarissa?
Nope.
Marco?
Yes.
Okay. Why? And what did you feel about Marco?
Very similar to things that you said, but the way that I kind of want to synthesize it is, the more I saw of Marco, the more I wanted to see. in a season that has a bunch of plots where each time I checked in with them, I'm like, do we have to? Is anything new happening here? I don't really care. Oh, like each time we checked in with Marco, I was just like, oh, what are we going to get? I was always excited to see what he was up to, what he was going to do, how he was going to react. What are going to be the consequences of this volatile villain?
Now, is number 2 an already existing character or one introduced in this season?
Existing.
Existing? A proper main character?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I always assume Amos is your number 1, but is Amos your number 2?
Nope.
Amos is your number 1, though, isn't he?
Yeah.
Okay, and it's not Clarissa.
It is Clarissa.
Okay, Clarissa. Okay. So
I had her down as Peaches.
okay, thank you. Respect her name that she doesn't understand.
Yep. She's rebranded.
She's been rebranded, yes, by your boy. So why Peaches? And please talk about her in detail. I kind of just skipped over it, just being like, I like her.
Really like the journey that she's going on. Like you mentioned, her engaging with these discussions with Amos, but not just following him blindly, but she is figuring out her own meaning of the world. And that I enjoy how informed that is by her time in prison. And the stories that we get from that time for her, and how it has fundamentally shifted her nature in a way, because she's been broken down, but she wasn't broken.
I agree. But why is Amos your number 1 character of the season, unlike any other time?
Because he continues to be amazing. I love the stuff that they're doing with him. He's still grappling with trying to be a good person. The fact that he realizes that he's been away from the Rossi crew and that's having an impact on his choices, and that he wants to get back to them so that they can help him be better, and how he's just creating a family that helps him be good is just adorable in a very psychopathy way.
You have always gravitated towards this character because of how he works as a member of the team, how he challenges everyone else. But this season is everyone's apart from one another. So how did you feel about what Amos is like when he isn't in that mode that you so often enjoy seeing him in?
Yeah, well, I liked the reminder of what he could be, and the fact that he's gotten to the point where he doesn't want to be that anymore. We saw him almost slip into that when he attacked the people on the was it shuttle to Luna?
The shuttle, the ship. And obviously, when he was going to kill that guy or take that guy's stuff, and then Clarissa did it in the end, and they had that conversation about what it is to be a monster. Let's talk about the people we just didn't like in the season. Characters that we did not care about or care for.
Continued to not give a shit about Bobby. Continued to not really give a shit about Alex. Was not very interested in Avasalara most of the time.
That was a big difference between you and I. You were very much like, Avasalara's plot didn't have anything to talk about. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then we had a 15-minute debate about her plots and what they actually were doing. And I think that is a big division. She's not my favorite anymore. She's not. She's fine. A lot of her stories just don't have that depth to them that I think they did in the first couple of seasons. There's so many times in which it's very much, I guess she works as an underdog. So let's make sure that she's an underdog, which fair, but at the same time, it's 5 seasons, 4 of which I've seen her be the underdog, and the one where she wasn't, I mean, in defense, was her worst story, so maybe they're right and I'm wrong. Fuck me, I guess. But was that in order of your ranks of how you feel about these characters? Like Bobby is third, Alex is second, Avaslara is your first?
No, I wasn't that prepared for my bottom 3.
Oh, wow. So
They were just like the 3 that came to mind.
Bobby's a given.
If anything, I gave it reverse order. Like, Bobby's number 1 least liked, Alex, then Avaslara.
Tell me why Alex? Why Alex, even after what we ended with him?
Because he's still fucking useless. Like, what he does get is good. When he actually gets to do something, like, I like the stuff with his ex-wife. I like the stuff with his kid. I like that he's so determined to get Naomi back. I like the way that he switches between calling Holden Jim and Chief, and the way that reflects like what they're talking about and the state of their relationship.
I liked him being a Martian Marine, like Martian soldier coming back into play, and how that helped them gain some intel.
It feels like that is so small compared to his screen time.
He's mine. 3, James Holden. Welcome back, buddy. You're on the list. I think I've had him on the list before. If not, hello, old friend. You're here now. Talking about characters that got nothing to do, he got nothing to do. Unlike with Alex, I don't think there was any real moments within this season I got anything out of his character.
No.
At least
he's
with
definitely
Alex,
on my list too.
At least with Alex, I got something. I was excited. We talked in depth about him at many points, and his ending is very moving, and especially considering what the actor did in real life that pushed the production to make this choice for the character. It's amazing how it all works out and how it makes sense on just where the character's arc was going. But Holden, Stephen Strait gets nothing to do in the season as an actor. He's just standing there. Even when Alex dies, he barely tears up about it. He doesn't have much of a reaction to it. And it's like, this is the time where you let him act, guys. We know he can do it. Let him have something. And Holden just stands there. Number 2, Bobby, as said, it's a given at this point. I declared during this season I've given up on her. Officially. Like, I've always been trying to give the benefit of the doubt, and maybe this season or this storyline, or now that she's now she's away from the Marines, maybe she has something going on, or now she's with the Rossi crew, or now she's with Avaslara, or now she's... No. I don't care about this character. She's not for me, and I know some people love her. Some of our friends, podcasting friends and real life friends as well, colleagues, love Bobby. They're like, oh, she's the MVP of the show. She's the best. I love her. Like her and Drummer and Avaslara, they're the best characters of all time. And I'm like, Bobby doesn't work for me. Because the most excitement I get from her is like, oh, she did some action scene.
Looks like we shook the right tree.
Yeah, well, the trees ain't supposed to shake back.
Now you have to play the game and guess who my number 1 least favorite character is.
Is it one that I mentioned?
No. It's one neither of us have said in this discussion.
Ooh. Main character?
No. One-off character.
They're just in one episode.
One scene.
Oh, one.
But we've never forgotten. Never forgotten.
Can I get another hint?
Apparently, they were established since the beginning, but not really. They're key to one of the main characters, apparently. They are a woman, if that helps you. Wow, Rachel, come on. How could you forget?
Oh my, it's not Lydia.
No, she's not even in the...
She's not even, she's in the flashbacks.
No. Ashanti. Ashanti Avasarala. Who the fuck is that character?
I was thinking of her and I was like, she doesn't
Who the
count.
fuck is she?
I was like, she can't count.
She counts. She counts. She is a
She's referred to in other scenes, but yeah, she's only there for one scene.
She's only there. Yeah, she's first introduced in an early episode of the season, never
God
to be
damn
seen
it.
again. And here's the thing that drives me crazy. So
I'm so
we got
disappointed
pushed back.
in
We got
myself.
pushed back, being like, "Hey, she was in the season previously. Like, she was mentioned. She's important. You know, she's a part of Christian's family. So make sure you know that." No one could give us any evidence of her ever being mentioned before. No scene where they're like, oh, Ashanti, my daughter. Oh, I have a daughter. No one gave us that. People just said that happened, but I asked, could you find it? Everyone in our community Discord at one point or another was like, oh, I'm pretty sure it was in season 1 or season 2. Could you find it? No one could find it. No one did find it. We're here at the end of the season. You missed your chance to prove us wrong. And I realized that we, for the whole entire show, and not one single person through our Patreon or through the public comments when we get this on the main feed, ever corrected us about how we kept saying her grandson, was the son of her son that died. We thought that's what it was. It was like, oh, that's like the son, like that's her son's son. Like, oh, of course. Apparently, and this is my best guess, that's Ashanti's son. And we were just supposed to have known that, oh yeah, Christian has a daughter. And that's why when we introduce her in season 5, we have to take it on the chin because of course she does. Whose mother was the grandson in season 1 that's never been referenced again? And that's just insane to me. It drives me nuts because we can compliment the series as a whole for its writing and its callbacks. Like Marco is referenced in season 1 and all these things. And, Naomi's looking for Philip in season 1 and Fred Johnson. And he's a character that's been here. And then we see him die at the end, like midway through this season and like all this poignant stuff. But then suddenly, oh yeah, Christian has a daughter. And this is so bizarre because she's not like, it's not like Christian is a character in which it doesn't matter who her family is. It does matter because we were introduced to her via the fact that she is a grandmother, that she is a wife, that she is a mother grieving the loss of her child. So it's fucking bizarre that the show introduces in the 5th season that she had a kid all along that's just been here the whole time, and you should have known she was the mother of that grandson we've never referred to again. And it just boggles my mind. It boggles my mind because you know why they introduced her? Do you know actually why she's here in the season? Like, they physically cast an actress rather than just say a line of dialogue. They had an actress in the scene facing off against Christian. Why did they do that? Do you know why they have Ashanti in this season?
Tell me why.
Here's my guess. To make it less sad for when Christian has to come to terms with her husband being dead.
Yeah.
Because it would mean that Christian has no one. Other than the grandson who is on Luna. Remember, that was a big thing. He was on Luna, blah, blah, blah. But like, they don't reference a grandson ever. So it's like, it would be less sad if she has a daughter and she has more family that's there. That's why. And so they go out of their way, painstakingly out of their way to let you know Ashanti's okay. But did she appear again in the season?
No.
Will she appear next season?
Maybe. Probably not.
I'm putting it down now. No.
Nah.
Never again. We'll never we'll never see this character again. And that's the type of bullshit writing I hate in The Expanse, where it's like, they like kind of fuck up things to make sure to fix things that honestly are less important to me. Like, would you have cared? Would it have actually been bad if Christian had no one left at the end of this season, like in her immediate family? I mean, she has a grandson. They could still keep him, but like even then, if she had no one left, if it was just her, would that be too much?
No. Like, it would be very sad and very dramatic, but not necessarily too much. Like, especially because we know her to be such a strong woman. Like, is she still damaged and heartbroken from the loss of her son? Yeah. Would it be even more so to lose her estranged husband? Yeah. But
if anything, it's more interesting. I actually want to see what she looks like when she's lost all of those personal things because she was too focused on her job and the need to protect Earth that the sand slipped through her fingers like that, and that being her own family. Like, she's already gone through this once with her son, and now here she goes through it with the remainder of her family, which is her husband. I actually think that would be much more compelling dramatically than just Ashanti's here. You know, that amazing character of Ashanti. I had to put her at number 1 because I kept reminding myself that this character was established in the way that they were. There's no reason other than what I just said, or even the stinkier option in the book. Well, in the book, she has a daughter, so they have to bring it in the book. It's like, I guess Ashanti is like a Havelock type character in which they serve a very weirdly specific purpose that undercuts what the actual story's doing. What would you say was the biggest surprise of the 5th season?
I wrote down 2 things. And one of them was how disinterested I was in Avasalara's plot. Because I really thought after, we got her being taken down and humbled last season, and we did not enjoy that election plotline. But her being sort of like the last champion of Earth, and how that is a very interesting comparison to the point that she was at when we first met her, of Earth First, and the way that she has changed a lot in her political ideology over the course of the season, to the point now where she's at, where she won't just stand by and accept these things. But I just didn't care most of the time.
And
that surprised me.
Yeah. Why? When was the last time you were really invested in the Christian plot?
No, I'm not surprised that I was disinterested. I'm surprised of how much I feel like I've forgotten what happened with her this season.
And what was your other big surprise of the season?
How little the red goo was important. Because we have, Holden getting the message from the doctor on Ellis, him telling Fred, and then the end when the Martian ships.
Well, we also have the emphasizing of every time they go through the rings, there's some weird glimpses, and also there's so many
I felt like I was forgetting something.
There's so many news broadcasts about there's other artifacts on these other planets, but thank God there's no proto-molecule to activate them and make demonic entities come out.
Yeah,
thank God.
It's bubbling in the background, but I was expecting it to be a little bit more important this season.
I love that your big surprises were still negative comments. Whoa, the big surprises for you. They didn't do these things and it sucked.
Those were the 2 that I had written down. Did I have others?
Oh, see, I don't know when you just say, these are what I wrote down. Here's what I wrote down, and I thought this would be maybe at the forefront of your mind, but I know that sometimes you don't like it when I bring up ones that challenge one of your core criticisms, which is the season had consequences.
Yes, I also enjoyed that.
It was a surprise. Characters died. Fred Johnson died.
Is dead, and they're gonna have to deal with that. There will be significant changes on Tycho, in particular because of that.
And the OPA as a whole.
Earth
and
is decimated.
Earth has been taken down a peg. Same with Mars. And we have, of course, the death of Alex. One of the main cast is gone, and we know why. But still, it was a surprise because when we were watching it, we didn't know, and that was something we learned after. But even still on that level of like, one of our main characters is gone. And it's weird because you're reminded at the start of the show, they made it a big deal that anyone could die at any point. But we haven't really had that in the same way since then. We've had people sacrifice themselves nobly, of course, and you could say that's what Alex did, and yes, it was, but it was still a death that was a surprise. Miller dying both times was not a surprise to him or anyone. It was inevitable. But Fred and Alex, they were sacrificed and taken off the board, and it was a surprise. And yes, Marco winning and succeeding, showing that there are consequences, that the villains can succeed, but also just on like a grander scale, a large amount of this series, I think even the opening like text of the series talks about this brewing conflict that has been built on the oppression of others. And now we see how that has started to turn, in which the Belters, specifically Marco and his faction, are turning that fear and anger and hatred into a unified force that is going to make sure that everyone else feels the pain that they have.
I'll save your tears. I'm a fighter. Strength makes us who we are.
Killing people doesn't mean you're strong.
And we have hit the point, Rachel, where we can talk about what we think will be happening in the future of the show.
I think we're going to be dealing with the third space aliens more.
In what way?
I don't know yet. I don't know.
But that's what we're here for. Like, this is a big, like, what's the point of this?
Fuck off.
No, I mean, I mean,
chicken.
What the fuck are you talking about? I'm talking about, like, what's the point of, like, the thing itself?
I thought you were like, what's the point of bringing up that prediction if you didn't have anything to say?
See, you're just so defensive tonight.
No, but I do have a particular prediction about the red goo, which is I think it's going to bleed out of the ring into our galaxy.
And what will that mean? Because we did see
destruction.
On what scale, though? Like, because it seems like it's pretty unstoppable.
Yeah, it does. I'm not sure to what extent. If it's gonna, like, slowly bleed back to Earth. I'm not entirely certain.
Is it following proto-molecule, or is it just going to be after anything at this point? Because the thing was, the Martians that got attacked at the end didn't have the proto-molecule. They already sent it through.
Yeah.
So it attacked them anyway. Why? Like, I thought previously it was like, because, like, it knows, like, it's getting angry that we're all going through it all the time, but, like, the proto-molecule is really what pisses it off. But instead, it's like, that went through fine.
Is the proto-molecule what gives the safe passage?
Yeah, no, I'm not too sure. So what are some other predictions that you have for the final season of The Expanse? Like, how are things going to play out and why?
I think Avaslar is going to struggle to create cohesion when it comes to Earth, as well as the plans to try and get the galaxy singing Kumbaya.
I think, yeah. Well, yeah, that's going to be her season-long struggle, is trying to get the diplomatic side of it, because she has to convince not only the Martians, who are former foe.
I think Bobby is going to suck at being a liaison and fuck off.
No, that can't be.
I think she's going to leave her post. I don't think she's going to stay on Luna.
I think she's going to be with the Rossi crew. I think finally they're going to have like a whole crew of characters. Like,
Bull is going to be part of the crew.
Yeah.
He's going to be the new
Clarissa,
not new captain,
pilot.
New pilot.
Yeah, we're going to have Clarissa, Bobby, Amos, all of them. I think, just talking about those characters, I think Monica, I hope she's in the next season, but I hope Monica, she's the liaison for Christian instead, because those two characters would work really well together.
That would be a lot of fun.
They're both morally upright, good at their
Monica
jobs, but they're fundamentally opposed. That would be amazing. That's what I wanted in season 4.
That would be fun.
That would be so fun. Or at least she's the journalist who's helping gather the information that she needs. Like she's her spy or whatever. That would be fun. You were just mentioning Christian's struggle to gain cohesion, but she also has to convince the belt to join in on the fight.
Like,
that's going to be real tough after what happened with Palace.
Yeah, like it's Earth, Mars, and the belt that she's going to have to be dealing with.
To just list off a couple of predictions for what could be happening in this final season.
Oh, I still think Philip's going to betray Marco.
Why and or how?
I don't know. I just got a feeling. It just feels natural to me. It feels...
Do you think he'll kill him? Do you think it's going to be that level?
Yeah, I do. I do.
Just for sake of variety, I don't think he will kill Marco. I think he's going to leave Marco in his own mess that he's created.
I think he might directly or indirectly lead to Marco's downfall at least, and potentially death.
Okay. Yeah. One of the things that I'm thinking about is that red goo stuff that you mentioned, the interdimensional aliens, and we were promised them at the end of this season with what's happening in the ring space, and we got Laconia. I'm interested in to see how that plays out, but Cortazar's making a space station or some weird orbital thing, and that's now the end credits, or at least it was of the season finale in the 5th. But with the red goo, I keep trying to be like, what's the point of it? Like, this is the big, big bad, like the thing that started it all, or whatever it was, that wiped out the proto-molecule builders and all of that. What's the point of it? Like, what is the agenda here? Like, what's the story that you tell with this? How do you make that interesting other than, like, it's just a big alien foe? Because when we did Babylon 5, specifically Third Space, the movie that we keep referencing, it was boring because it's just some big ancient alien cryptic thing that they have to blow up. It's not as really impactful as the other stories that the shows and or movies would get into, and that goes with The Expanse. The Expanse, to me, this final season, it has to focus on the intergalactic war going on with the belts, with the ring space, with Laconia, like with Earth. Like, that's the stuff that's the conflict-wise is far more interesting than these ancient alien foes who are just evil, like, or just chaotic, or whatever the case is. And I don't know what the angle they would take with that is. I still haven't figured it out. Like, how do you make that interesting with how we've set up the show thus far? Like, what do you think? Because this whole entire alien civilizations thing has been the backbone of the show, but in a weird way, it's the least interesting part of the show. It reminds me of Game of Thrones with the White Walkers, where it's like, yeah, there's a zombie army up there and that matters, but I would actually rather care more about the political stuff that we've got going on. What do you feel about that stuff of it? Like, you mentioned, like, we got to deal with it, but like, what is the agenda here? Like, how do you tackle that?
I don't know. There's a couple of different ways that they could go about it, and I'm really not sure. I think they're going to be ambivalent to life as a force.
Yeah. But
that's my current theory.
But
that's all I got.
But what does that offer to the show? It's the biggest concern I have of the final season is we've got 6 episodes. Are we going to deal with this? And if so, how will it shape what the show has been about? Then, when it comes to like other prediction things, I think Marco, yes, is going to get taken down. I think Earth, Mars, and the Belt will unite and become a federation of planets and live peacefully. But how do we wrap up our characters? Like, how do you see the show ending for Amos, for Bobby, for Jim? Like, how do you actually see those characters ending?
I don't know. I don't think we're going to get more core character deaths. I don't think so. But I feel like they can't just continue on the Rossi. I feel like they need to...
Will the Rossi die? It's one tough, mighty little ship.
And it has survived an awful lot. So, yeah, I can see that maybe happening.
Yeah. Well, now we've talked about the character of Rocinante, how it ends. But what about everyone? Like, how do you imagine these people wrapping up at this point?
At one stage, I might have said that, like, Holden returns to Montana. But with Naomi being unable to survive in a gravity well, I don't...
And would you go back to Earth now?
But now I see him being as more likely because he can rebuild. I don't think Amos is going to go back. I think he's going to stay out in space. I think Peaches is going to stay with him for most of the season, but afterwards, I don't know.
This is a series in which actually, for all of the successful abilities we have to predict things, again, we haven't watched the show before, we haven't read the books, we haven't looked anything up, people don't spoil things in this manner for us. The way we manage to successfully predict things either come from being able to follow what they are putting in the show and going to the logical and or satisfying conclusion points, or, on the other hand, saying, I really hope they don't do that, and then they do that. Those are the ways I manage to predict things, but that doesn't help with, like, how do these characters conclude? I actually have a hard time with that. Like, in my mind, Avasarala becomes the leader of not just the world of Earth, but of humanity, where she has helped bring everyone together, and she's going to work with the coalition of people, whether it is your drummer, your Anderson Doors, your Bobby as a character. I honestly don't know how you conclude her other than she gives a noble warrior-like sacrifice. That's a thing I can see happening. Holden and Naomi, weirdly enough, I see the Farscape ending for them, in which it's like they're on the ship romantically, like, we've done all of this crazy stuff, but we've still got each other, look at the stars and be like, look how far we've come. I think Philip is going to go to jail. I think, like, he will do the right thing, but he has to live, he has to face the consequences of what he's done.
I hope that Philip ends up with Amos and Peaches.
What a weird trio they would be.
Weird sort of rehabilitation program.
Yeah, and like just this cast of characters, Peaches and Amos. I don't know. I think I've said before. I think Peaches is going to die from the mods. Like, the more she uses them, the more harmful they are to her. I can see that being the case, but I have never had a clue of how Amos will end, because I think the series itself loves him too much to kill him. I don't believe that you'll end the show with him dying. I just don't think the show... I think not just because you like it, but like the show itself, I think has such an affinity towards the character that they wouldn't have the heart to do it. So yeah, it's not satisfying to say, like, I don't know, but genuinely there's a few of these characters I haven't figured out how they're going to wrap them up. Now, is there any other big predictions that you have for the rest of the Expanse? Anything else in your bag there of tricks of like, ooh, they'll bring back Havelock and they'll bring back the Gorm Belter and, ooh, look, all of our old friends are back. I hope Prax comes back in the final season. I've missed him. I just want him. I want Anna. I got Monica. So if I keep listing characters I've wanted before, maybe they'll bring them back in the final season just as a thank you to me. Like, hey, thank you, Ryan, for podcasting through. We know that you really missed, pancake boyfriend of Bobby's. So here he is cooking up some pancakes.
Oh, pancake Bobby.
Pancake Bobby. Maybe that's how she ends. Working in a restaurant, making pancakes, and then he walks up to the till. And she looks up, and then you cut to black.
I guess Ray Butts has ate his last pancake.
Now, the name of the next episode, the premiere of Season 6, is Strange Dogs. That is the name. We haven't seen it. We don't know anything about it. How do you think they will start the final season of the show?
I think it's going to continue right where we left off and then skip forward.
They do love skipping forward. So what will happen in those skip forwards in time? What will be the plots happening? What are they going to tackle? What are they going to start looking into for the season?
I think they're going to be trying to figure out what's happening with the red goo and the ring. I think what's happening on the other side is going to come in more towards the middle of the season. So I don't think we're going to deal with that side of things in the first episode. Avaslar is going to send the Rossi to the ring.
Do you think they take it back?
Marco's going to try and spin it.
Nice. I think Strange Dogs will have some Laconia stuff. We ended that season on it, and so to not have it come up in the season premiere after it would be strange. And not just because the title has strange in it, but I just think it would be bizarre if they didn't have it be there. It was just such a cliffhanger thing, and it's so just it's just so kooky. This society of militaristic freaks who are purists, and they have this alien technology that they're working on a planetary scale with. What does that mean? What does that look like? And I think we're going to spend time on the colony getting to know some of the characters there, because they set up characters that we didn't get to meet. Like, there was certain lines of like, this admiral is making sure everything's working to plan, and Cortazar was talking about like the people he's interacting with. I think we're going to see Cortazar, or at least hear about Cortazar's experiments and stuff like that. One thing that I'm wondering about is, what does Marco do next? What's his big plan next? Like, how does he get better than what he's done here? Like, what's his big offensive now? And what is it that will bring about his downfall? Because I think season 6 is going to be him having a snowball effect now of him going down. Like, he's just going to fuck it up and things are just going to keep stacking on top of themselves. What's the big reach that he has after this? And I think because it was referenced so much in the last season, he's going to take Sirius back. Like, he's going to take it.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the bad choice on his part, because that's him striking at the belt itself.
Yeah, and that's going to be him overextending.
And he may succeed at it, but it will sow the
sustainable
seeds of discontent, because it's him attacking the belt rather than him attacking the inners and what the inners have. Because we know Marco is capable of sacrificing anyone and anything for what he believes is best for him. And I think that's something. Do you think Anderson Dawes will return if that was the case? Like, we get one scene. Nope. He'll be dead. He'll just be, we killed him off screen, I bet. I think I've already made that bet before. But those are my big things. I hope that we get at least 14 scenes of Clarissa having awkward workplace comedies scenes on the Rocinante as their new engineer. Oh, hi, Jim. And he just gives her a look, just like, don't you talk to me because you tried to kill me for a whole season. I would love that. But that's all we have to say about the 5th season. Isn't that it? Is that it, Rachel?
That's it.
Do you have a ranking in your mind of how you would go with the seasons? I kind of do. I still have season 3 as my number 1. I really like season 3.
Agreed. Season 4 is definitely the lowest.
Yeah, I think mine, if I have to go from top to bottom, season 3, season 2, season 5, season 1, season 4. I think season 2 just, it had more of like, it had a lot of the things I really like. Just a lot of great little touches that I really like. All of the political stuff. Aaron Wright. You get the Eros incident and Miller's sacrifice. I really like that. But this season had, as I mentioned, a lot of great character stuff with Marco in particular and Naomi that, maybe next time we do this ranking, I may have the 5th one over the season 2. But season 2 also had the introduction of Prax, and that's hard to beat. Rachel, do you have a ranking in your mind?
2 and 5. So it's same as you, is that right?
So
it's 3, 2, 5, 4.
What about 1?
Oh.
Not even in the list for Rachel. Thank you all so much for listening. It's been a great time. No. If you want to support the podcast,
1 is in the middle.
Middle. So above which one? So above 2? I mean, above 5?
So
yeah, please make it easy for me to know your ranking. So Rachel, what's your ranking of the seasons?
So I got number 3, then 2, 1, 5, 4.
And you like this season. You like this one, but you like season 1 more. Interesting.
I don't know.
You missed Havelock. If this had him in it.
Oh, god damn it.
You know what this season didn't have? Mormons. I miss those guys.
This is a lot of fun stuff. Like, yeah, okay, push 1 down a slot.
No, keep it as it is. It's interesting.
But I feel like I can't justify its placement there because there's so much that I hated.
But also, you did love Amos with his little buzz cut. You love short-haired Amos. Do you still not care for Amos with his current...
I've accepted.
You like his hipster look?
Yeah.
You like that he looks like a barista? He's going to serve you coffee. Well, thank you, Rachel, for struggling through, but you got there in the end to tell us your ranking. Everyone, check out our social medias. We are on all of them under yumyumpod or yumyumpodcast. Rachel, where else can people find us on the internet?
If they're not already listening to it on this platform, they might be able to find a new Wonderland on Patreon, where we release these episodes first, and so many other great things.
You can contact us at our email address, yumyumpod@gmail.com, if you want to let us know anything, give us your questions or queries and or even concerns. You're concerned that Rachel didn't remember immediately shirtless, pantsless Amos. You're like, is she okay? She said she was sounding rough at the beginning.
Ashanti.
Well, look. Only I remember Ashanti, honestly. I think no one else does.
You carry that burden alone.
Yeah, I'm quite like Jesus in that way, actually, where I have to, I'm the one who has to carry that for us all. But that is all we have. Thank you all so much for listening. Until next time, remember that the Gaunt Belter will appear in the 6th season. That's my final statement and prediction. The Gaunt Belter will not only appear, but he'll open up the 6th season. You laugh now, bitch. He'll be there.
I want to be proven wrong. I want to be proven wrong.
We start the season and he'll be like, hello, Beltalowda, and he's doing the full thing, and he says my favorite, dusters. That's a phrase they dropped. I don't hear them say dusters enough in the show. That's one of my favorite little slangs that they used to talk about Martians, and they didn't use it as much as I was hoping, but I still liked it when he said it.
See you then. Well, voila.